Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 1 finale of Kaiju number 8. Great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up with Iharu and Ichikawa having their whole conversation about Kafka, but also Ichikawa's need to push himself, and the reasoning ends up being what I thought it was. It's right, I need to become stronger because time and time again Kafka's put himself in a position to protect us. Once again, he wouldn't have had to reveal himself if it wasn't the need to try and protect us. I mean, that's who he is, but it's right, I want to be strong enough that he doesn't have to protect me, I can protect him. And they've always kind of had that back and forth even throughout the season, but it's he owes a lot to his senpai. And so Iharu, hearing all that, kind of goes right, okay, and pushing himself too. But obviously everyone's, worried about, the verdict that's going to happen about this whole situation. Mina gets called to headquarters, but she's not. I think it's disrespectful and super messed up. She was going to sit down and wait, but I bet don't sit down. You're not allowed to have a chair. It's Jesus, that's because it's that seats are reserved and you haven't reached that position yet. But she's going to reach there soon enough. So, but it's still just kind of the disrespect. It's come on, she can't even sit down. We're asking her to wait, but it's no, we'll convene in there soon enough. So you just stand. But once again, she's a good soldier. She's going to follow orders. She's not going to get butthurt about it. I'll get butthurt about it on her behalf. But obviously we continue the clash between Asao and Kafka, Kaiju number 8 in this regard, and it ends up being this back and forth, and even it's pretty brutal what the Kaiju does. It tries to attack, and in Isawa's mind is this thing isn't thinking like a human, it's acting like a rabid beast, so it's not thinking tactically. But then all of a sudden it twists its entire torso around, breaking its body just for the sake of, I'm going to hit you, because it knows I can push myself past anything because I'm going to regenerate. Because I think Kafka would never think to do that, because even while in that state, it's still taking a toll on him, on his body, because I think his body can only take so much before it breaks from all of this. But I guess it's kind of a moot point when you're just a vessel, and once his essence and all that he is, his humanity is consumed, it's basically going to be walking around with a human corpse as a vessel. So I think that's why it's kind of doing whatever it wants to. But it's pushing Isao to his limits. I did like the perspective where it's almost like two kaijus fighting each other from across time. Number 2 is kind of there in essence fighting number 8. So the two of them are clashing. And obviously Isao is kind of getting wounded in the process. But even eventually, because Kikoro is listening to some of the other higher ups being that's so weird. Normally Isao would have just he should have ended this immediately when he had the chance, while Kafka was still in his human form, and it's kind of what I thought. It's right, this whole thing is a test. Now, he'll probably never admit it, but I think some of what Kikoro said last episode did reach him, but he'll probably pretend like it didn't. She's kind of wondering if her words did. Like I said, he's too stubborn to ever probably admit that they did, but I think they play at least some part. He'll probably try to say he's being pragmatic about it, his approach, but it's he wants to test Kafka to see right, if I push you and push you and push you, what would happen in the end? Can you prove to be the human I think you are? But Kafka is getting more submerged in a kaiju, going into a more monstrous form, getting bigger and bigger, and kind of losing that smaller frame he's had, small-ish medium frame he's had as a kaiju. And on the inside he's fighting and struggling because he's no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to kill her father in front of her. To be fair, the way Asao was talking about, he's you wouldn't have been able to do it because he wasn't really going hard into pain. This was a test, but he's got to make it real. He's got to put the pressure on to force his hand. The entire place started to rattle and shake and break from the two of them clashing like that. Because you rarely see kaijus go blow to blow like this. So it is kind of a rare, except for the times when you have to go, it's numbered kaiju. There's probably not too many opportunities where especially once again, we've only gotten up to 10 so far with the numbered kaijus, and that number will increase going forward. But so numbers clashing to that degree is a very rare thing indeed, especially considering 2 came around in the 70s, so I think that kind of speaks volumes, just like how sporadic these things are. But putting all that aside, Kafka is like pushing and pushing, and he tries to break free. But as he kind of beats himself up a little bit about it, he's like, every time it comes to that big moment, me making my moment, I always falter and I always fail at the end. Whether it was his test or whatever, they failed over and over again to become an officer in the defense force. And the creature bites him, and he's being submerged, completely absorbed by the kaiju. But in that moment, Mina reaches out to him, and I think it's kind of this beautiful thing where it's like, right, it's her as a kid, what he remembers, but also the person she's become, being like, I will always be waiting. And in that moment, he reaches inside his own chest, because he even says later, I would rather die as Kafka than live as the kaiju. So, because like that's who I am, reached into his own chest and destroyed, well, partially dissipated the form. There was also this sick part during a fight where Asawa had hit him, and it's like, wait, his core isn't there. In that instant, it removed its core and then like regenerated around it. Obviously, it's because it doesn't have to worry about the strain on the human body. I think it's regenerating at a much faster pace because of that. Because like it takes its toll on Kafka to like regenerate, so but without having to worry about him and the toll it's taking on him, it's going full force with its regeneration. But that's pretty slick and sly, like just like separating your core from your body and then regenerating around the core. I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty sick. But either way, that's where things end. And now it becomes a decision of they have to decide what they're going to do. And Mina basically has to give her report. And she's in a tough position because, I mean, she's very good at like keeping a very stoic face, and she's being very pragmatic about it, even though there are emotions involved. She can't completely separate her emotions because she wants Kafka to come out of this okay, but she's going to try and present herself as practical because she knows if I'm emotional in front of them, that's not going to sway them. I need to be logical and pragmatic about it because that's the only way they'll listen. And it's like, right, look at all that. It's like, oh, he's not a human. He wouldn't have been able to do all he did without his kaiju powers. And she's like, you're right. But it's because of who he is at his core. He's protected people time and time again. If it wasn't for his tactics as Kafka, he's the one that told us about the weaknesses, the weak points for the kaijus time and time again, even about the reproductive organs in the most recent incident. Well, not this most recent incident, but the one before that. But for her, he's always been the guy that's like, his heart is his situation, no matter what change. And even she said it, that even being a kaiju is shocking, but knowing like without hesitation him helping people, he's always been that guy, and she still sees that. But they're like, right, we're not gonna like believe, because they're saying like, they're trying to make her feel better by being like, nothing you say will matter here. We're just interested to hear your thoughts as his commanding officer, but our decision is our decision. Nothing you say will sway. Once again, you can't completely discount what Kikuro said to her father. You also can't completely discount what Mina's words said, whether and at least maybe Kikuro's words primed him so that both Mina's words and Kafka's determination both reached him. Because we found, well, I'll go ahead and finish my thought here. So the others aren't moved. Because it seemed like everyone else in that room is against keeping Kafka around except for Asao. Like, I don't think we saw anyone dissenting amongst them being like, oh, we should. It's like, no, everyone of the leadership is against him. But it's like his word kind of outweighs everyone else because he's kind of the final say so. But they have a lot of opposition. And he's being pragmatic about it, like I said again, that, hey, we're going to need someone like him on our side. It's like, even if we crafted a weapon from him, we would never be able to fully draw out that power like he can in this form. Like, he's more suitable for us as the Kaiju number 8 than being forged into a weapon. I also forgot we got introduced to number 1, the one who has number 1's weapon. Did we ever discover who... Kikuru has number 3, doesn't she? Because like she has a 3 on her axe. Because I was wondering if like Mina or Hoshina like have But I mean, it doesn't seem like there was anything special. It just seems like, I mean, they're probably like powerful weapons, but I don't think they're numbered weapons. Not that I'm aware of. I don't think they ever. Well, they probably are numbered weapons. I think there are numbers on his blades, and I just never paid attention. I don't think they ever focus on like the numbers on her like rifle. I don't know. I mean, once again, there's still like what if I'm remembering correctly, and her axe is 3, but maybe it's not. Maybe I'm about. I swear she has a 3 on her axe. Maybe, or I think she does have a number on it. It might not be 3, but she does have a number on it, I believe. But anyway, my point is we meet the person who has a weapon forged from. Well, I would assume that was him, a weapon forged from Kaiju number 1, because he's from the 1st division. And he's like, oh, you kind of let that get cut too close. You didn't ask for backup. But he was like, nah, I was never in any danger. But anyway, going back to the point I was going to make. They talked about the devastation that Kaiju number 6 caused. And that's 10 years ago. And once again, kind of showcasing the numbers. Are like 2 was in the 70s. 6 was like a decade ago. And in that time frame, since then, we don't know when 7 popped up, but in just a couple months, we've gone from like 8 to 9 to 10 pretty quickly. So it's like, and that's also the conversation too, that most likely we won't just be facing one number at a time. The numbers might come at us multiples at a time, so we got to be wary of that. And they're like barely keeping pace with the numbers. In fact, they need a number to go toe-to-toe, but that's him going up against 1. Like, what's he going to do against multiples? What are they going to do against multiples? That's why they got to be prepared in the grand scheme of things. I think Mina specifically was talking about that last episode. But anyway, we find out Kaiju number 6 killed like 200 officers and 3 captains, and they included saying his wife. So I'm assuming his wife wasn't just an officer. I'm assuming she's one of the captains, and I guess that's why Kikuru is maybe as strong as she is, not only because of her dad, maybe her mom was crazy powerful captain as well. Which obviously that plays a role in Kikuru and Isao having the perspectives they do on Kafka, where they're having some leniency, even though, I mean, once again, everyone's lost somebody, lost something to the relentless siege of the Kaiju, you know? But yeah, this is where things kind of set the stage going forward. So I talked about it previously about where my thoughts were about how they were going to handle Kefka going forward. There's probably going to be a thing of they will probably limit him ever using his powers. He probably has to get. It might be one of those things where like you need to get special permission from the top brass to ever transform. So unless you got permission, you can't, like, there'll be consequences for you using it all willy-nilly. Maybe there won't be that level of restriction. Who knows? Like I said, we won't really know what the leash around his neck is going to look like until we going forward. But I'm curious, because that was my thinking, like, maybe they'll keep him locked up and only bring him out when he's necessary. But it's like, no, it seems like he might be able to just go back to Division 3 as his human self. But, you know, once again, whether there's restriction on him as a kaiju or not, you know, because he's also got to train to make sure that he can never lose control of himself again. There's still also the giant enigma of, once again, why did this thing choose Kafka? It specifically said found you, like it was looking for him specifically, but, you know, was it looking for a suitable host? What about him made him seem like a suitable host? The thing's only ever said, like, what, 4 words to him in total? It's like, found you, and then kill. Last episode. That's the only thing it's really said to him. So they haven't really communicated. And maybe it will be like a Naruto and Kurama thing. I mean, the others can communicate with their tailed beasts. It's just a matter of if you ever get to that point. Obviously, you see it the most with Naruto and Kurama, but you also see it with, like, Killer Bee and his tailed beast. Either way, tangents in that aside, I'm curious if he'll ever get to that point with this thing. Is it just going along for the ride? Like the fact is, it hasn't, like, fully taken over him until now. Is it just his sheer will keeping it at bay, or is it kind of biting its own time too? What is it after? We don't know. Because, I mean, I'm curious if this thing is like, oh, I want to kill all the kaiju so I can become powerful. Like, I wonder if it kind of has Ten's mentality, because Ten's like, yo, I want to fight. I want to fight strong opponents. What this thing's like, yo, I want to take out all the kaiju for its own reason, where it's like, I want to be the best of the best. I want to, like, cut through every other kaiju, devour them, and get stronger. Maybe it's not even thinking like that. Maybe it's purely driven by instinct, because we've met like 9 and 10, which are intelligent. 9 seems to be like the most intelligent so far, but 8 hasn't presented itself in that way. So I'm curious. Like I said, but maybe it's also because like a lot of itself is kind of, I mean, we don't know where this thing came from, like necessarily. Who knows? Like, I don't want the answers, but I don't know if like the manga's kind of answered that already, or whether or not like we still haven't even gotten to that point, even the manga, to answering that question. But either way, Kafka ends up waking up in a hospital, and Isao kind of laid down the law of like where things currently stand. You are a kaiju, but you have to prove yourself like that. Because if you show yourself to just be a monster, we will put you down. It's like if it wasn't for you having a kaiju's heart, like you doing what you did would have killed you if you had a human heart. But so it's like you are in fact a kaiju. So you need to prove yourself. And he's like, right, I will. But also he's like, oh, thank goodness, and showing his human heart, where he's like, I would have never been able to look Kikoro in the face. And so it's like, right, what Mina said kind of resonates in that moment, like that human heart. So it's like, right, you've got to, and once again, he's trying not to be sentimental. Who knows? Like I said, we don't know how much is actually reaching Isao, but I think enough is. He's just, once again, very stoic and very practical about it. Like, okay, this has got to be the approach to it. This is the best option all around. But once again, eyes are going to be on him. Any slip up is going to give anyone and everyone an excuse. And even Hoshino says, like, yeah, going forward, because like the top brass is going to keep this a secret from like the outside forces. But he's like, eventually people are going to find out. It's only a matter of time. And Kafka's going to have to prove himself that beyond a reasonable doubt that like no one could ever doubt him of like where his allegiances are and who he is. So it's going to be a tough uphill battle in the long run. And obviously everyone else finds out about it, especially the conversation between um, Haruichi and Aoi, because they ended up having an interesting conversation where Aoi was like, you kind of take things at face value, and you kind of just like, you kind of judge a book by its cover. You just have you lock in on your thoughts about something. You're kind of, even though like Aoi's supposed to be the one that's very like by the books, it's like you have your perspective on things, and when once you've kind of made that judgment call, you're locked in. You're not willing to kind of see that there's a little bit more facets to people than that. That it doesn't matter where you are or who you are or where you're from. All that matters is what you do. And it seems like, well, from what we can tell, it doesn't seem like Haruichi called his dad. Still don't know what that beef is, but they are happy in the end, because they're like, wait, like, Aoi, the person you called, did they have some part to do with this? And Aoi was like, no. It's like, okay, good. So that means Kafka won this victory on his own. It's a everyone's victory, because everyone chipped in to make this happen. Kikuru played her part, so did Mina. Mina's happy, and so is Kikuru. But it's like, right, she knows this situation taught her, like, I need to become even stronger, so that if this situation ever happens again, I'll be powerful enough to stop him without, like, hopefully without having to kill him. Like, yeah, we struck our bargain about it, but it's like, I don't want to kill him because I do care for her. I like the dude. So it's like, right, I gotta get stronger so I can have his back and make sure I can stop him if the time ever comes without having to kill him. Snap him back to being Kafka. But obviously, Kafka deserves a nice rest, even though, like, literally, Isao was like, yo, wake up. I'm still talking to you. We're not done. And he's, like, sitting up, passed out. I was like, hey, man, give the guy a break. He went through a pretty draining ordeal, several days locked up, then had a tussle with you, nearly killed himself just to prove who he was. Let the guy rest for a little bit. And then finally, we catch up with number 9. He's been gathering intelligence on what the human world's intellect level is. And he's like, okay, he's like, this is their base level. He's like, the only benefit they have is basically they can accumulate knowledge and pass it on to the next generation. He's like, that's kind of an issue, but it's like, oh well, like, I'm going to do all I can. He's communicating with somebody, so whoever he's serving in the long run. But it's the whole conversation of like, right, we're going to get that Kaiju from their side 8 and bring them back into this fold. But so it's going to be a tug of war with Kafka and Kaiju number 8 being the prize in the middle, being like going to be tugged and pulled and tugged in those different directions. So I'm excited to see where things go next. Season 2 premieres in I think the 19th, so obviously it's like less than a month away. Really quickly, I did Google it just to check it out. Based on what I Googled, this first season covered roughly the first 5 volumes. I think it said from chapter 1 to chapter 38, but there's like 43. Chapter 43 is the end of volume 5. So I don't know if that's implying like it didn't adapt all of volume 5, or at least adapted some of volume 5. Or maybe it, whatever the case may be. Maybe I'm misremembering the number, but I definitely remember volumes 1 through 5 being what were adapted. So, roughly speaking, it's like a third of the current manga has been adapted. So I'm assuming we're going to get maybe another third next season. I mean, I guess that depends on pacing and stuff like that. What gets, maybe anything that gets cut, what gets condensed, what gets elongated type of situation. Because I believe it's currently up to 128 chapters, but I think it's 120 to 128 haven't been combined into volume 16 yet. So there are currently 15 published volumes, but 128 chapters in total, I believe. So still a bit of material left to adapt, but I'm really curious to see what season 2 has in store for us. I'm sure there's probably a trailer out. I mean, even if whether it is or isn't is a moot point. I'm not going to watch it. I want to go into the next season knowing it's as low as possible. But yeah, this is a great series. It's been on the list for a while. I'm glad I finally jumped on it, and obviously season 2 like a couple weeks away, but practically around the corner. Kind of the perfect time to jump into it. I'm actually surprised how quickly I tore through this. Like, I just been dedicating like a lot of time to this specifically, so I kind of pretty much tore through this season in like 2 days. I mean, it's only 12 episodes, sure, but it's like I rarely tear through stuff that quickly nowadays, just because life and stuff. But anyway, I'm going on a tangent. That's all a moot point. Like I said, I'm excited to see where season 2 takes us. What new challenges await Kafka, as well as the 3rd Division and just the defense force as a whole. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.